And welcome to our virtual event, Surviving and Thriving in the Face of Adversity. This is a chance for the business community that can play in shaping the future of Cornwall. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Thompson. I'm Business Manager at Swig Finance, and I'll be your host today. This is a joint event between Swig Finance and Oxford Innovation. So we have got a couple of Oxford Innovation people here as well on our panel. Oxford Innovation and Swig Finance work closely together with businesses in Cornwall and on the Isles of Scilly, helping them to grow and be successful. Just a little bit of housekeeping for attendees. First of all, you should all be muted with your cameras switched off to make sure that we have the best video and streaming possibility and no background noise. So if you can just check, if you're not muted, you could mute yourself and switch your camera off. Thank you. So a bit of background on Swig Finance. We are the Southwest's leading community development financial institution, CDFI, and our purpose is to bring social and economic benefits to people, places and business communities within the Southwest. We are a gap fund lender, so we do provide access to finance to businesses that have been unable to access finance elsewhere. We have a variety of funds available, including the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Investment Fund, COISIF, which provides loan and equity funding for fast growth businesses. And we also offer the government startup loan scheme, which is very popular at the moment. Oxford Innovation, our partners today, are a specialist business support organisation. At present, they are delivering 2 successful support programmes in Cornwall and Scilly. Oxford Innovation Cornwall provides focused business coaching and support for ambitious businesses, and access to finance offers SMEs the chance to explore options for investment and other funding opportunities. The SME landscape has changed dramatically in the last few months due to the impact of COVID-19. If someone had said to us 12 months ago, you need to wear a face mask, you need to queue to go into a shop, you need to keep social distance, have you had a sibble or a bibble, we'd have wondered what on earth they were talking about. But that is the reality of our life at the present time. Swig as a lender are seeing firsthand the devastating effect that COVID-19 is having on small businesses within the Southwest, but we've also been inspired by some success stories of businesses over the last few months, and we will hear from one of these later on today. The uncertainty of this year with COVID-19 and also Brexit, combined with yet another lockdown starting in England today, has given us the opportunity to bring together England industry experts with a diverse range of perspectives to reflect on 2020 and explore what's next for business in Cornwall and Scilly. The agenda today is going to be in 2 parts. So in the first part, we'll hear from each panellist as to what businesses need to think about to enable them to survive and thrive in the current climate. We'll then look forward, we'll go round the virtual table again and share opinions on what is needed next to support recovery and future growth of SMEs within Cornwall. There is the opportunity for you to ask questions. There is a question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. If you can pop any questions in there, and towards the end of the session, we'll go around and answer as many of these as we can. So, to introduce our panellists to you, and you'll excuse me if I'm looking to the right, just so that I can make sure I get everyone's titles and names correct. So a massive welcome and thank you to our panellists for joining us today. We really do appreciate this. So in no particular order, our panellists are John Peters, Managing Director at Swig Finance, Heather Copeland, Programme Delivery Manager at Access to Finance, Lloyd Brinner, Senior Manager at the British Business Bank, Ian Harris, Non-Executive Director at Cornwall Care and Connect Cornwall and various other roles, Meredith Jones, High Growth Business Coach at Oxford Innovation Cornwall, Rajesh Joshi, Resort CEO at Bodmin Jail Hotel and Resort and a Solutions Specialist, Paul Miller, the Managing Director at Cornish Accounting Solutions in Bodmin, with a bit of frost apparently today up there, and Sean White, the founder of WeSup, the specialist stand-up paddleboard and lifestyle business. So the first question that we asked our panellists to think about was, what can businesses do to transform their models towards growth in the current business climate? So I'm going to go first of all to Sean for this. Sean, WeSup has had a very successful year in a not seen before situation. How did WeSup survive and thrive over the last few months?
Hi everyone. God, there were so many things that we did to facilitate the success that we've been enjoying, but I think the kind of the turning point for us was when we decided to start looking at our seasonal business in a trans-seasonal light. We decided to think about why Cornwall and Devon was suffering such low rate of business for us in the hospitality industry and the travel and tourism business. Why were we suffering that? And it was because we weren't focusing enough on our local people. We weren't giving local people good enough reason to be proud of where they live. We weren't doing enough to educate them about how incredible access to water is and how awesome it can be to be a part of coffee culture in the Southwest, or actually what it really means to shop local and support your small local businesses. And as soon as we started to engage with our local customers with that respect, everything changed. And we started to be able to drive new revenue streams into our business because we were focusing much more on the local economy and enjoying the kind of extra that the tourists bring. And so I think that when you inspire people who can support you all year round to support your business all year round, it's natural that revenue can be driven in a new way. And after our first lockdown, we were actually genuinely confident about coming out the other side of it because the business was doing really well before lockdown. And when we were coming back into that summer season, lots of businesses were saying, oh, will tourists travel, or how will we cope? And we were like, you know what? We had already done such a great job of bringing local people into our business. Our business was actually entirely sustainable on the local economy. We'd proven that over the winter that come the summer, we knew it just wasn't going to be any problem. And all our local customers came back and they continued enabling our business to be successful. And then we enjoyed that boom of the tourist economy as well. Then they left, and the same story, our locals were still there to support us. So adopting a trans-seasonal model for your seasonal business is definitely one of the best ways I think you can encourage growth.
Thank you very much, Sean. That's really interesting to hear about seasonal and getting local people on the side. That's really good. Paul, going to you. As a local accountant, you support a lot of small businesses. What do you think businesses can do to help themselves now? Are there any golden tips you can share with us?
I actually come at it from a slightly different way from Sean. Sean looked at income, I'm looking at cost and expenditure. Cost and expenditure we can control. And what I'm suggesting to all businesses, and in particular our clients, is that they look at their costs that they're paying out by direct debit or standing order. And we suggest that they photocopy their bank statement, take a highlighter pen and go through and look at all the things they're paying for on direct debit or standing order that basically creep out of the bank account, and work out where they're getting value and work out where they actually need them. And allied with that, we would also advocate that you look at your personal expenditure. So we would suggest that you do a similar exercise on your personal bank accounts, photocopy the bank accounts, take a highlighter again, look through what you're spending. Are you getting value for money? Do you actually need it? And basically try and reduce your costs. Because for me, costs is easier to control than income, and it's more direct, and we would actually have more of an idea of what they would be. And we need to look at ways that we can actually reduce that, so that, as Sean said, to look at income on the other side.
Thank you very much, Paul. Some good tips there, I think, for everybody, because we all have personal expenditure as well as business expenditure. So over to you, John. With SWIG being one of the first accredited lenders for Sybils, it would be great to hear your take on how SWIG coped with the demand, and how your business model adapted and changed over the last couple of months?
Okay, so I mean, like all other organisations over the last few months, we've been going through a sort of period of rapid change, and it's one of the buzz phrases I think the last few months, alongside "so you're on mute and I can't see you" and things like this, is talk about pivoting your business model. So once I looked at what pivoting meant, actually that's what we've done, and really, we've transitioned from being very much a I guess a kind of physically based organization to being a virtual organization in a short space of time. So through implementing new technology to deliver effectively deliver remote service, and implementing changes that we've been considering and talking about for some time, but never quite getting around to implementing. And actually what that's done for us is to essentially enable us to address one of the challenges we've had as an organisation that aims to service the whole of the Southwest region, is that it's helped us to overcome that geographical challenge, and now we're in a situation where the rest of the kind of the world, in terms of the market that we're involved with, is working remotely. We're able to attend meetings with customers, with stakeholders, and etc. Throughout the region, and and beyond, from our own homes. So that's absolutely great. And just picking up Paul's point, that's actually reduced our cost base quite considerably at the same time. And we've achieved that really through obviously implementing the technology, but making sure everybody has been on board with it as well. So everybody's up to speed with the changes, and everybody is happy and feels comfortable. And also sort of communication within the team has been very important, and making sure that really everybody is okay, because it's been a challenging time for everyone sort of individually, but also ensuring that we maintain sort of communications externally as well. So in terms of the demand that we've been coping with and the various challenges, it has very much been a case of sort of all hands to the deck, and seeing really applying technology in more effective ways, in terms of electronic documentation, electronic signatures, and all the rest of it. So I think the key thing for us, and looking at a lot of the businesses that we work with, there's been a hell of a lot of innovation, creative thinking, and real sort of flexibility in a very short space of time, and those success stories have been due to sort of the businesses being able to adapt their business model to suit the new market conditions, and in some cases actually putting that to their advantage in terms of being able to exploit the new conditions to establish a competitive advantage, actually. And I think the sort of key point, I mean, coming back to somebody mentioned the US elections and whether or not we'll have a new president by the end of this meeting, which may or may not happen, but to quote or this quote, the next president is the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. The worst thing you can do is do nothing. And we've seen this tremendous amount of activity, collaboration, and creativity over the last few months amongst the local business community, which has actually been quite inspiring, notwithstanding all the challenges we've had.
Okay, thank you, John. It's great to hear how Swick has managed to pivot itself, my favourite word, and work remotely, but also that businesses have managed to change as well, which I know we've seen a lot of in Cornwall. Meredith, going on to you, you've had a lot of experience as a coach to high growth businesses. What can you share with us about what you've seen and what businesses can do to help themselves?
As well, thank you, Rachel, very much for allowing us to join you today. And taking up that point from John, is one of the things businesses can't do today is to stand still. We ourselves have had to pivot and transform from being a physical organisation whereby we meet businesses as coaches to move purely online like we're doing here today. And that is in itself to our clients is a challenge. So in Oxford Innovation, we've developed a program for high growth businesses here in Cornwall, and we're very keen to reach out to as many businesses as possible and for them to contact us as well. And we moved all our services now online, and that involves not only our one-to-one bespoke coaching model, but also delivering our diagnostic program, the Growth Mapper tool, which we've evolved to assist businesses in different sectors, to explore different avenues in their businesses, etc., all done online. And then thirdly, with the expertise we have within our colleagues, we can then deliver more what we call spotlight sessions and help businesses which have specific, unique issues that they want to explore a bit further. And the beauty of doing it online, the confidentiality, the security of the systems that we use, it helps businesses to talk about those difficult issues in an environment which no one else can interfere with, and also helps business owners take some time out of their stressful, busy schedules at the moment. This is the time that businesses need to take a bit of time to reflect and to seek as much support as possible in order to help plan forward through these challenging times.
Thank you, Meredith. So some good points there about the need to plan forward and the challenges that Meredith's seeing his clients face. So going over to Ian. Ian, you wear several hats, but in particular, the impact on the Cornwall care business of COVID-19 must have been a challenge. How did you cope with this then? And how are you planning to move forward?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody, and I know there's others on the call as well. Yeah, Cornwall Care was really interesting. Not knowing much about care at all, I'd spent the first few months of being a non-exec from October last year, learning about a few things that I'd never thought I'd even think about, let alone learn about. And then along comes COVID. What I can tell you is that 5 weeks before COVID lockdown, we were planning, and I think that's my key takeaway here: is you need to be planning. Those of you who know me, Rajesh including, so I'm not looking at him for a minute, will know that planning is not my strong point. But don't do as I say, not as I do. But the beauty at Cornwall Care was we did plan. And 5 weeks before we were planning, we got Arthur Edwards in from Cornwall Council to check our emergency plan out. Was it perfect? No, but it was a plan. And we went into business continuity pretty quickly. For those of you who don't know much about Cornwall Care, we've got more beds than the NHS do, 650 beds. We look after 650 people in those homes, got 1,530 staff, and we look after another 500-ish in the community. So we had a pretty big job to do, and some of our staff had to isolate because they've got parents or family that had to be shielded. So all hands on deck. People from support office went out and started working in the homes. Some great stories. And at that point, knowing nothing about care and not being one that can, is qualified to do that sort of stuff, what do I do next? And it was mainly support, finding, helping them find PPE and stuff like that, and plastic pedal bins, would you believe, which was just brilliant. So it's planning. And so having gone through that plan, we now have a future plan, but the future plan includes COVID. If you haven't got a plan, you don't know where you are. If you've got a plan, you can then change that plan and make it go where you want it to go. And all of that comes Paul's costs, comes Sean's looking forward. It's just trying to make sure you make the most of it. So our new normal is including COVID. The upside of it is that we've lost less people because our infection control has been right on it, and we've not had anybody from outside inside the homes. So yes, we have lost 5 people over that COVID period. Although I have to tell you, something like 45 people got COVID, and I also have to tell you some of that was imported from the hospital. But there we are. But you know, the other 40 survived. And that's partly because we planned and because we had a system in place. So no, you don't like to lose anybody, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately we're at the end of life care, and that's what happens. And by comparison, that's a very small number. So yeah, my takeaway is planning, and the new plan has got COVID involved. And just to sort of complete the story there, Rachel, we are now in business development, but that includes COVID. And we're now growing again and moving forward. So despite the second lockdown, everything's in place. We've not really changed much. Forgive me, because some of you will have seen my LinkedIn profile. GPs and doctors rightly, and nurses are rightly having a, say, well, we're not looking forward to this. But I have to tell you, the people in care homes have not stopped since the first session of COVID. They've just kept going. We've got too many people to look after. Can't not do it.
Thank you very much, Ian, and I'm sure that everybody here today appreciates the hard work of the care sector and the general healthcare sector over what's been a really difficult time, and interesting to hear how key planning is to making sure that you're successful and you remain successful. So going over to Heather. Heather, you speak to lots of businesses. How are you helping them move towards growth and resilience?
Hi, yes, we do work with an awful lot of businesses, and I'm going to use the same buzzword as everybody else when I say pivot, because I think, you know, that is a really important factor to consider at the moment, and making sure that, you know, we don't bury our heads in the sand and we don't stand still, that we try and move forward and think about how to do that. And from a practical perspective, what does that mean? I think it means looking at our assets and our people and our skills and our knowledge, and looking at how we can use those effectively to, you know, increase sales, change our business model, etc. You know, so from a practical point of view, I do think that, you know, when we talk about pivoting, how do we do that? I think, you know, the key there is to think about, what do you have in your business? What assets do you have that you can put to good use during this period of time, and recognising the changes that we're still going through. And I think my other sort of key thing is financial management. So really looking at forecasting and understanding your cash flow cycle and understanding your profitability model. Thinking, as Paul said earlier on, about your costs. You know, I would say a similar thing to Paul, going through and making sure that every single overhead you've got, you've considered and thought about how you can reduce that, and keeping those costs low, including your own personal survival. So for me, it's about financial forecasting and changing your business model to meet the new demands of COVID. Another thing I'd say is ask for help, because, you know, there are plenty of organisations out there to assist and help you. And when it comes to sort of financial stuff, that's what we do, access to finance. And our service is completely funded, so there's no charge to you. Come and talk to us and let us help you work out what your financial options are, and help you work out how to forecast and model the future.
Thank you very much, Heather. Again, some key things coming out there about looking at your skills, but most importantly, ask for help, because the help is out there. So Rajesh, over to you. In your current role within hospitality and your previous experience in many different sectors, how can businesses solve issues they are currently facing? You're on mute.
I was on mute, yeah, exactly. Just trying to make sure I was out of mute. Well, I'm really, really honored to be on this amazing panel. So thank you for that today, Rachel. But I actually want to approach it slightly differently, if I may. It's not just about today, because, you know, there's a famous saying by someone whose name I can't remember, but it was an IBM chairman many years ago. There was a saying about work while, or fix the roof while the sun is shining. And this guy said, actually, the sun's hardly ever going to shine. So fix the roof when you can in rain or whatever. So yeah, I always approach the point that, look, it's going to be like this, whether it's COVID this year, 9/11 20 years ago, or recession in 2008, it's going to happen all the time. So get used to being in that sort of environment and have a plan. If you don't mind, I'm just going to share a little presentation that I did for today, because it's quicker and easier than me waffling on, if you don't mind. So if I may start from here. So I'll just put that down. So you asked about the sharing of best practices to create a collaborative and competitive business theatre. As I say, when life throws you a rainy day, play in the puddles. I guess that's a great way to put it. Polarization. This is part and parcel of where my last 20 years I've spent making money in terms of work by going into businesses that are either on fire and you need to run in and save them, or starting them up. And first thing I always say to people is, please believe me when I say polarization. There's premium and then there's budget. The middle, most people sitting in the middle don't succeed. They're there for a while. They either go to one end or the other, or they die. Polar opposites and success: Aldi, Waitrose; Skoda, Mercedes; Ryanair, Qatar Air; Premium Inn, Bodmin Jail Hotel, if I may throw that one in. You can see these are polar opposites. They are extremely successful in their own little marketplace, and they are resilient. Even, I get it, Waitrose has had its problems recently, as John Lewis has, but they have to then pivot, is a great word on it, but actually move slightly, but within their own little area of expertise. They're not going to start becoming Aldi or compete with them, nor are they going to go into the middle. Others who have chosen to be in the middle and have to either move again away from it or die or go on life support. I appreciate we could sit here and argue Marks and Spencer isn't dead. Well, actually, I think I could argue very easily it is dying and needs a change or pivot. British Airways short haul, definitely. If anyone who's flown it recently will know. Most 3-star hotels, you find me some that can make money or will survive in these sort of times, or most times. Solutions are the answer, and this is how as I say, for the last 20 years, I've been getting employed in most places. The answer is being customer centric. You have to have a customer centric focus, whether you make widgets or you're building hotels or looking after care in the community. You've got to be focused on that. Cost conscious. We've already heard this today. You've got to be aware of everything that it costs and how you can make sure that you get a return. Be aware of all the trends, because trends do come and go. Primark, for instance, I didn't put it on there as one of the leaders in their field, because they weren't quite aware of what would happen with the green a trend that went on. People are saying, don't throw away clothes, don't use little kids to make your fashion things, etc. Be aware of all the trends. Technical innovations, there's so many out there. We're using one right now to have our meeting. Use them for effectiveness and efficiency. And it's not expensive to get any of those. Collaborate. I think we've already heard that today as well. We can be competitive, but we can also collaborate. Ask for help, as just said 2 minutes ago. Build a great workforce, whether it's a workforce of 1 or a workforce of 1,000. If you invest in that part of it, it's so simple to say, but it's hard work. That is the hardest part. In my business at the moment, within the hotel and resort, I have a workforce that will build up to about 144 people. Now, I can't be sure that each and every one of them are going to be saying exactly what I would say and treat my guests the way that I would treat them, but I'm going to make sure that when I hire them and I train them, they will be to that point. And be true to your position. Don't keep thinking, well, maybe I've got it wrong, maybe I've got it wrong. If you have a brand, if you have a strategy, follow it. Pivot around within it, but don't keep on thinking you've got to go from left to right. No point doing that. I mean, you mentioned the elections in America. Whatever your politics, these two have got their two polar positions, and you vote for them or you don't. You know. Just to share what I'm doing at the moment very briefly, this is the Bodmin Jail Hotel and Resort. Several different aspects within there, but the one big thing on all of them is each one of these internal brands are premium end, and they cater for exactly the experience that we want to give. And it's about this is our brand, Luxury History Cornwall. Those are our brand pillars. And that's that presentation. Let me just stop sharing. And any questions on that? It's easier than me explaining everything in words what I would do, Rachel. I hope you didn't mind me.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Rajesh. Any questions, obviously, from attendees, stick them in the Q&A box, and we hopefully will come back to that. There's a very interesting question in there at the moment that we will come back to at the end of this. So going into our second question, what is needed to support growth and innovation for Cornish businesses? So back round to you, Sean, please.
Hey, I love a good common sense chat from our friend Rajesh.
Oh, I've just realised we've missed you out, Lloyd. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, Sean. We'll have to go back. Sorry, we need to go back to Lloyd. Sorry.
Some time, Rachel. That's very kind, and thank you for giving me the floor back there. So yeah, it's a great question, and I'm a firm believer that sort of challenge breeds opportunity, and we've seen a lot of examples of entrepreneurs stepping up to respond and try out new things. So, you know, it sounds almost sort of insanely positive that all these troubles can be a catalyst for things happening. Obviously, within that, we do have to realise that a lot of people are facing real hardship and trouble, and I think one of the challenges there is that if you end up in a stressful, perhaps financially pressured situation, that can really affect your mindset and your ability to innovate and do what's necessary to sort of thrive and survive in these challenging times. So that, and I think one of the other speakers, or several of the other speakers have mentioned, it really is a time to reach out and get help and gain the perspective and the inputs you need to develop your plans. But in essence, you're looking at what value can you deliver to who still. You know, it doesn't matter, the world's changing massively around us, but that's the basic question. And as you start to answer that, you're looking at, you know, what your business is good at, what skills and resources you and your team have. And Rajesh sort of finished mentioning positioning as well. I mean, you're taking that positioning into this crisis, and that's what people know you for. So remember that. And I think there's so much going on, isn't there, that with things sort of changing, that can help inform a bit of a strategic reset and planning that many businesses are having to do. And just flag that those changes are all ongoing at the moment, and where they're going to end up still has uncertainty. So, you know, we've got things like, how long is the pandemic going to last? And I think we're all starting to accept it's here for a while. We're in a recession. What's that cycle going to look like? Are we looking at a world where there's going to be less travel and commuting? I think that's going to be the case. For a rural county like ours, what's car ownership going to look like? Are there going to be other solutions? Or are we going to stay the same? That's going to be different in other parts of the country, perhaps. Hospitality's been hugely challenged. I've seen pop-up campsites just up the road from me. We're seeing more November breaks. We've got the possibility of big tech being more regulated. Are we going to have higher taxes? Are we going to have political change on the horizon sometime? Are we going to see more onshoring? Are we going to see more localism? Recruitment, many of us have already seen, has been online with online interviews. Are we going to have more remote working opportunities? You know, if you've been made redundant, can you widen your job search now? And there's so many things coming out of all of that background. I mean, it's a silly little example. At the bank, we've just launched Wellbeing Wednesdays, where we're being encouraged to spend some time on ourselves, an hour a day on a Wednesday lunchtime. So I'm really pleased about that, because it'll give me a chance to go for a quick run. But on the back of that, I'm thinking of encouraging my colleagues to do the same at the same time, and launching a thing called work run. So that might drive running shoe sales or physio appointments. And we've seen people move those types of businesses online. You've got sales opportunities from all this online engagement. Is it easier for in some business-to-business sectors to get an appointment now? So that's just a taster, but there's so many changes and so much opportunity coming from it. And I would encourage people to sort of think deeply and plan and see what they can do.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd, and apologies for my omission there. So some really good points have come out there. So we will go on to our second question, and back to you, Sean. What is needed next to support growth and innovation for the Cornish businesses? So
yeah, so when Lloyd and Rajesh were both speaking, then you can really feel the passion in kind of what they believe, and I think that for me, I can only speak obviously on behalf of my business. I want to work and collaborate with people who are passionate about business and the future like these guys. I'm not stuck dwelling in all of the problems that are going on in the world right now. I'm thinking about a much bigger picture, and all of the practical advice that I just heard from Rajesh, I'm like nodding my head going like, yes, this is what we need as a business. But who will invest in common sense? Because what my experience has been, people want to mostly invest in historical data. Businesses who are helping to drive the economy of the Southwest need practical support. They need practical finance. They need to be understood, and their business models need to be understood by people who are equally as passionate about business as these gentlemen are. And I think that if the supporting financial community can get behind businesses who are truly passionate about driving innovation and about pivoting and adapting and applying these common sense principles to their business, then that support in both finance and business support in general would be massively beneficial to our businesses. So many times we have been underinvested in both time and resources, and someone said it earlier, when you're under financial stress and your back's against the wall, you make terrible decisions, the worst decisions. So having the opportunity to be properly invested in would be enormously beneficial. I mean, just from our point of view, we have had great support from SWIG, and my best experience in business actually came from Oxford Innovation with Claire Whitney. She supported us for a long time, and she became a great friend, and actually has probably one of the most inspirational business leaders I've worked with even to this day. And we went before lockdown. We had a small amount of money, and we were turning over around about £125,000 in our business before lockdown. In the period between April and October just now, we netted 322,000. And that was just from a tiny amount of investment. And we know we could have done so much more if we had the investment we were really seeking. And that investment was really tricky when we're trying to constantly apply what we're going to do in the future based on historical data. So helping businesses apply the passion in their plan and applying common sense to our businesses moving forward. If the financial and business supporting community can help us do that, then I'll be really excited about that.
Yeah, and that's so true. The passion that we're seeing here and the support that people are offered is so key to being successful. So moving on, that takes us quite nicely actually to Paul. And as a business community, what can we do to support business owners going forward and help them be even more successful? I think you've got some really good idea on this. So
I'd like to congratulate Sean. What a tremendous story, and thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So for me, I think being a business owner or being in business is quite a lonely environment. There's very few people that you will share your innermost thoughts with. Traditionally, we would share it with our spouses or partners, but if they're not really involved in the business, they don't really understand what's going on. We traditionally wouldn't want to share it with our employees, to share the inner secrets, our secret sauce, the innermost workings. So for me, Solution, reach out to the business community and build a peer network. Build a network of people whose opinions you trust, who potentially aren't in competing businesses with you, who can actually help you understand that you're not the only one with those issues. You're not the only one that's trying to struggle with things and trying to work out the solution. Because for me, by explaining it to other people, it's quite cathartic in that you actually understand on your own what the solution is. You just need a little bit of reassurance that that is the right decision. And for me, I have a peer group, a network of friends who, as accountants throughout the country, who we share the innermost workings. They're not direct competitors of mine, and they can say to me, come on, Paul, you've been a prat, you shouldn't be doing that. Actually, you need to think about this, and let's be realistic. This is what I've done, this is what I've learned from, this is the example that I would use, and this is how you would do it. And for me, it's all about sharing on a sort of Chatham House rules basis. What stays, what's discussed in the peer group, stays in the peer group. And I think we as the business community can actually help ourselves.
Brilliant. A really good tip there, Paul, about getting a peer group, a network of sort of business friends that you can use to support yourself. That leads us quite nicely to Meredith again, and what you and your team at Oxford Innovation can offer.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And indeed, both Sean and Paul comments there were just phenomenal, because in Sean's case, he's highlighted the benefit of the experience he's had from a first-class coach. And indeed, in Oxford Innovation, we're very fortunate to have a whole team of experienced coaches, and that one-to-one opportunity to explore some of your plans, to help you develop that business plan, to help move the business forward. It's not just finance. Yes, finance is important, but it's the whole ethos of the business, what you're trying to achieve, and helping develop that passion. And it's true, Sean, doing business with that passion, it's pointless. You've got to have that drive and enthusiasm, and the people around you need to share that as well. It's critical. And we as coaches, we are passionate people, and we love dealing with those enterprises which are looking to deliver high growth, and in particular in your case, a great exemplar of that. And following on from Paul's point there about the lonely journey of the entrepreneur, many of us have run our own businesses, and yes, we do empathise with that difficult stage in businesses when nothing's going right, nobody seems to understand you, the only person who has to pay all the bills and stress about the next decision is you. Who do you talk to? And that's where the coach comes in. We're there to listen and to explore those avenues that you can't discover yourself. So I'd reach out to any business in Cornwall, particularly going through that high growth trajectory, to get in touch with us. And another point that Paul made was about the importance of peer networks. Oxford Innovation are very pleased to have won a contract with Bays to deliver a peer network here in Cornwall. It's in course of being launched. So I'd reach out to business owners in Cornwall who'd like to understand a bit more about peer networking and how we can work together on that. But watch this space. Peer networking is being delivered shortly here in Cornwall. But no, we're very excited to be involved here.
Thank you, Meredith. And that is a brilliant bit of news that you've heard here pretty much first. So reach out to Oxford Innovation if you're interested in this, or reach out to Paul to find out how he's got on with setting up his peer group network as well. So moving on to John Peters again. Historically, we've always seen a lot of innovation in Cornwall. So how can businesses continue to get the financial support they need to grow and innovate?
Without sort of wishing to repeat too much what was already been said, I think communication is certainly key. The peer-to-peer network sounds absolutely fantastic, and a great forum for sharing information and experience. I think in Cornwall we're actually very lucky to have a very robust business support network, both in terms of the Growth Hub, Oxford Innovation, and the Access to Finance team, and also a very robust professional firm network, and people like Paul, Cornish Accounting Solutions, and the way we work most effectively, and the way that we're able to support more businesses is by working in collaboration with all these organisations. And I think it's really important that, you know, and the business support sector and professional firms do work closely together, so they cross-refer and join the dots for service users to help businesses maximise opportunities. And of course, we also have a range of financial instruments in Cornwall to support businesses with growth potential. We've got the Cohesive Fund, which provides an escalator of debt and equity finance. We've got grant funds through RDPE, the Big Fund, etc. And we've got startup loans. So there's a range of products in addition to obviously mainstream finance available. So the more that we can join the dots, plug that finance into the local networks and local businesses, then the more chance we have of supporting those businesses with potential to grow.
Thank you, John. Yeah, collaboration is absolutely key. Collaboration in Cornwall is key. Ian, moving back to you again, obviously you're involved in a couple of different businesses. You gave us some examples of what Cornwall Care is doing, but what else have you done to help businesses you're involved in to survive and to thrive?
I think it's the strategic friend. It's the problem shared is a problem halved situation that many others have talked about. And unashamedly, I'm going to put a push out there for non-exec directors. They need to be the right people in the right place at the right time. So the other CIC I'm involved with is Connect with a K. Used to be Connect Cornwall, but last week we changed our name to Connect Communities because we're being asked to move outside of Cornwall. And even before COVID came along, we were bidding to work with people who are low self-esteem, ex-offenders, people who are having a real hard time. Unashamedly, we've grown 750% in 2 years. That's phenomenal, and that's down to the passion of the people that are involved with this business because they want to go forward. So to take Sean's point, it's a very different passion. It's not to go and do something, but it's going to help other people, and that's been absolutely tremendous. Are we sitting on our laurels? No, we're not. How have we achieved that? Actually, I would put that down to the board. Actually, so we've got 2 executive directors on, the FD and the chief exec, and then 4 of us as non-execs. So we have Emily Kent, who's head of economic recovery and European funding at Cornwall Council. So if you want to know about that sort of funding, you can't go much higher than that, really. There are times when she has to step out of the conversation, but the information we get from her is invaluable. I've got Sarah Pugh from 8Mar, who looks after our social media and advertising because we're really bad at that. So she's a great appointment for a company that's bad at that sort of stuff. And I've got a lady called Anne Proctor who used to run the probation service. So we have people on the board who are actually there for a reason. Then you ask, well, why am I there? But that's another story. I think that's probably made me down to networking and and knowing people and being able to solve issues really quickly. And you know, I don't know anything about care. I know more about care than I did a year ago. But actually, it's my other attributes that have been useful to them, and that's where they've valued my input. And I think, you know, to take everybody's point here, don't be afraid of having a non-exec director. Yes, it may cost you 400 or 500 quid a month for some time, but actually it's someone to share with, someone who's there to talk about your business and help you share your business, give you ideas and give you a bit of a leg up in moving forward. And whether that's Cornwall Care, who are one of the largest employers in Cornwall, or Connect with, well, yeah, we had 3 employees 2.5 years ago, and we've now got, I think this morning we got 31 in there this morning. So yeah, fantastic.
Thank you very much, Ian. Again, some common themes coming through there about collaboration, sharing, and finding somebody that you trust. Heather, over the years, we've seen some great innovation come out of Cornwall. What support is there for today's business owners to continue this?
Heather, on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. I think you know, there are lots of things out there, as John mentioned earlier on. So there are still some grant funds in Cornwall for growth, or if you're doing something innovative. So there is funding out there, and I would encourage any business that's sort of spending money on non-usual stuff over the next 12 months, or has plans to come and talk to us and see what's available, because there are quite a few funds around. We can cut through all the stuff that, you know, the technical stuff, and tell you exactly what's out there, what's going to suit the spend, and how to access that. So come and talk to us about those things, and they definitely are out there. Also go and talk to your accountant about things like R&D tax credits, etc., or talk to a specialist. Paul will be on with us at the end of this month, actually, talking about R&D tax credits. So I'm not quite sure I remember the date, but I know it's 20 something. So you know, come on board and actually come and watch that, and learn all about R&D tax credits if you're doing innovative or new things, new processes in your business, and learn how to take advantage of the tax benefits there, because those tax benefits can actually be real cash in the bank. So important, again, when you're growing the business and doing new things, to think about what might be out there. And just a quick thing on the whole peer-to-peer thing. I just wanted to give you a practical, personal example of how important peer-to-peer networking is. In that I own a local removal company, and we work very, very closely with a lot of the other removal companies in Cornwall. And rather than that whole thing of the competition, and therefore we don't talk to them, by actually talking to and working with those people, we have grown our fleet overnight. Because when we filled our books and we can't do any more work because there's no more vans, we can call on our other companies we work with, and suddenly the customers are happy because the job's being done, and we haven't let them down. We've actually got that network of people to expand our fleet, and vice versa. So when they're busy and we're quiet, they come and use our staff. So it's a really, really important, valuable thing to do. And I would encourage people to really think about that. And, you know, talk to Meredith about the peer-to-peer network work that we're doing at Oxford Innovation.
Thank you very much, Heather. That's a brilliant example, real life example again of collaboration within Cornwall. Lloyd, anything that you can share with us about support from British Business Bank coming our way, or anything else you'd like to add?
There we go. Yeah, so we're expecting some news today on some more detail on the extension of the Civils and the Bibbles schemes. And that's been a massive sort of factor in the SME finance marketplace throughout this year, and it's set to continue for a while longer, doesn't it? And significantly, I think, and this perhaps has come through feedback. I spend much of my time talking to stakeholders and finding out what's going on the ground, and then feeding that back into the centre at the bank, where we're the sort of centre for expertise around SME finance, and advise government as well. And one of the factors that was coming up earlier in the year is that smaller Cornish businesses have gone for a bounce back loan. They perhaps asked, I think Heather was active in telling me this, and they'd perhaps gone for 10 or 20k. And now they're coming back to Heather saying, well, can we go and apply for some more? And back then the answer was no. And of course, that's one of the changes that's now worked through into the next round of Bibbles, or the continuation of Bibbles, in that if you perhaps took 10 or 20 earlier in the year, you can now attempt to top that up to anything up to 50,000 in total. So that's one sort of example of what's been going on this year. There's been a lot of listening and reacting, and I think across all support providers and probably government as well, it's important to be adaptable, flexible and responsive in this environment. Everything is changing quite quickly. The other sort of theme that I've heard coming through in my interactions is the need for businesses to get on top of cash flow. And I know that there are lots of providers out there that can help businesses with that. But and I suspect most businesses would have been taking quite a hard look at that, or being forced into taking a look at that in recent times. But cash flow as you plan to grow is equally as important. So, and that's going to help you as you approach access to finance or SWIG or other operators in the county, sort of private providers, and working through your accountants as well. So that's a definite flag that that's an area for support where the county can look to offer support as well around cash flow and business planning. So yeah, and I think I just echo some of the comments that we're actually, bringing it down to Cornwall. We're really lucky in Cornwall. We've got the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Investment Fund that can help businesses look at their pivoting operations and their growth operations and helping them to survive and thrive. I was at the Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Investment Fund webinar yesterday, where we heard from the head of funds, Ralph Singleton, that they are now, at the moment, due to some sort of EU rule relaxations, able to help hospitality and retail businesses in certain circumstances. So, that's a huge benefit to this county, and would encourage SMEs to explore or get to know the fund, even if it might be a year's time before they need to ask for money to drive their growth. And I think obviously we're going to continue running the government schemes that the government's asked us to run, but I personally am going to continue encouraging connections, collaboration and referrals in the SME finance marketplace. And I would definitely encourage businesses to talk to others, seek advice around what finance options might be best suited to them.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. Some useful tips there and a bit of knowledge about things that can help over the next few months. And Rajesh, any final tips that you want to share to help businesses in Cornwall?
I think everyone's actually said near enough every tip there is. The one thing I would say in relation to what Sean was saying earlier about raising finance, there are so many routes to finance. You've got three different companies here already, but I would always reach out, and this is not a plug for you, Rachel, but I have put people to Rachel in many a time who in adverse conditions, and she's come back with various solutions. So there is plenty of that. Networking, I think Cornwall has more networks than I've ever seen in any county for such a small population, but the best ones out there are people, reach out to Oxford Innovation. I have done in the past. They're brilliant. They do amazing things. They really do. And then there's also the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce of Cornwall is amazing. They really have 700 businesses around that work with each other in collaboration. That's the answer in these things. More and more collaboration and getting into the right people. There's lots of fakes, as they say out there, but there are some very good ones, and it's about finding them. That, I think that's the only tip I can give that hasn't been already given, and it works.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Some really useful tips there, and some common themes around common sense, collaboration, using peer networks, reach out to Oxford Innovation, think about your planning and your financial management, talk to a specialist, someone who can help you, but above all, move forwards. We've got 1 minute left. There's one question on here that I wanted to just quickly throw out. Rajesh mentioned the green trend. The scientific consensus of the impact of the climate emergency go far deeper than short-term trends. How aware do you think business across Cornwall are of the potential impacts we are facing? And that's from Peter Lafort. So does anybody want to just quickly give us an answer on that? How aware are we in Cornwall of the green situation? Anybody got any comment to make?
Probably as much as any other place in the UK. I think that's the answer to it. But it's going to become more and more of a, as I say, you've got to be aware of all trends, and that's not a trend as in just going to hear today, gone tomorrow. It's going to be, everyone's going to have to live through it. Yeah, very well said. Well said.
So I'd like to say thank you very much to all of you on our panel. I think you've been superb this morning and come up with some really good tips. I forgot to say at the beginning of this that this webinar is being recorded, so if anybody does want a copy of this, I've just put my email address into the webinar chat. Some of the contacts, some of our panelists have put their contacts in there, but if you do specifically want to speak to someone from the panel, come to me and I will put you in touch with them if you're not already in touch with them. But again, thank you very much to everybody for your time, and have a great day. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye everybody. Bye.
Bye, thank you.